Hello, very good afternoon, everyone. So, thank you very much for attending or for registering for today's workshop. Now, your participation is a mere motivation for us. Now, thank you very much once again. So, this is going to be the fifth workshop in the ADManager Plus workshop series, and the workshop series has been a real success so far, and we're really happy that we could share knowledge with you customers because we at Manage Engine value customers more than anything else, and that is why we have the series of workshops going on and are happening. So yes, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vivin, and I am the pre-sales consultant for the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. Okay, so I said that this is going to be the fifth workshop in the ADManager Plus workshop series. So let me quickly give you a recap on the last four workshops that we had. So these are going to be the topics, or these were the topics that we covered in the last four workshops. Okay, now the first topic was, or week one was all about user provisioning using CSV files. So you need to we discussed something about creating users using CSV files with minimal attributes and all those stuff. And then the second step, or the second week, was user provisioning using CSV files and templates. Now templates basically were used or are used in ADManager Plus to maintain uniformity and to uh, you know uh, to provision user accounts in a very easy manner and yet effective. So workshop 3 was for user modification via CSV files and templates. So when I say modification, so it's reset password, account unlock, and all those operations. I mean, modifying the group membership of users and moving home folders and profile path and all those stuff. So that was modification. So week 4, which was the last week, so it was all about script-free reporting and on-the-fly Active Directory management. Now, when I say script-free reporting, it is all about, without using PowerShell or VB scripts, you will be able to generate reports and then get vital information from Active Directory. So when I say vital information, something like recently deleted users, recently created users, inactive users in the sense users who have never logged into your Active Directory domain for the last 60 days or 90 days. So finding them, and also on-the-fly management, on-the-fly Active Directory management. Now, what is on-the-fly Active Directory management? You generate a report. Let's say you find out the list of users who are inactive in your domain, and what you do is you purge those accounts just by generating a report. So you generate a report and act then and there. So that is on-the-fly AD management. Now, these four topics, or these four workshop sessions, were very successful, and once again I'd like to thank you very much before proceeding to our workshop number 5, which is today's session. Okay, so let me give you the agenda for today's session. Now, today's workshop is focused on two important topics, be it in Active Directory or be it in ADManager Plus, and that is role-based delegation and workflow. So delegation and workflow are going to be our primary focus for today's workshop. Okay, and here is the agenda. So first, we will see how to create roles within ADManager Plus. Roles are nothing but the actions that you will be delegating to other users in Active Directory. Okay, so we will be seeing how to create roles with any type of restriction that you want. When I say any type of restriction, I am referring to even attribute level restrictions here. Okay, so that would be our first task, creation of roles with any restrictions that you want to impose on your user accounts. Okay, now the second one is we will be creating roles based on a hierarchy. When I say a hierarchy, so we'll be creating a role for a mid-level IT technician, and then we will be creating a role for a super admin. And we'll see what are the restrictions that we can impose while we delegate roles to mid-level IT technicians and super admins. So that is going to be the second, second step, or the second topic in our agenda. And the third one is restricting users to only certain OUs in your domain. So in case if your domain has 20 OUs and you don't want a specific technician to deal with accounts in 3 OUs out of 20, you can restrict the action of technicians to those 3 OUs that you want. And we'll be discussing about that. And next comes workflow, which is very, very important. So just to give you an example, in a normal organization, in a normal scenario, what happens is if any organization is recruiting user accounts, the first step is creating accounts in Active Directory. And for that, we are going to see how HR can raise a request for user provisioning so that the mid-level technician and the super admin of the domain can just review the request, add the attributes necessary, and then go ahead and complete the user provisioning process. So it's something like a request and approve kind of mechanism when I say workflow. And next, we will be discussing something about uh, self-service and workflow integration. And the last topic is assigning of tickets based on actions. Say, for example, if you want the create users request to be assigned to technician A and delete users request to be assigned to a technician X. So we'll be discussing about all such assigning rules in the workflow section. So it's going to be delegation and workflow. Now, all set. Now let me quickly log into the application. So for those of you who'd like to work or play with the application as we as we discuss the topics, you can very well use the test installation. So once again, let me quickly share the URL with you. I would request you to have a look at your chat window. You will be receiving the URL. So you can just click on the URL in order to access the test installation. For those of you who already have a test installation in your organization, you can very well make use of that and then play with the software. Okay, so the URL, I'm sharing it with you. Okay, so this is going to be the URL, and the username is going to be ADMP, all in lowercase, and I've given it to you in the chat. So ADMP, and the password is going to be workshop, W in caps, ORKSHOP. Okay, there you go. So once again, I have given you the URL, and the username is ADMP, and the password is going to be workshop with W capitalized. And not to forget, the logon to should be ADManager Plus authentication. So once again, username ADMP, password workshop, W capitalized, and logon to is going to be ADManager Plus authentication. Okay, I hope you have all logged in, and now we are all set to go. So let me quickly log in here. Okay, now I'm going to log into ADManager Plus with the admin account. I've logged in successfully. Now the first step that we are going to focus on, or the first topic for today's session, is going to be AD delegation. Okay, so now before starting or before diving deep, let me quickly inform you something here. So within delegation, we have something called help desk roles. Roles are nothing but actions that you'll be delegating to your to the users in your organization, be it a IT or be it a IT admin or a help desk or whoever it is. So these roles have nothing to do in altering the permissions of a user account in Active Directory. So you can create any role that you want in a very defined and refined manner, and then you can delegate it to a user, but that is in no way going to alter the user's permission in Active Directory. That is the best part here. So we are not talking about security delegation in Active Directory. We are talking about role delegation, which in turn will help the user or will allow the user to perform actions in Active Directory. So we'll discuss a lot about that in today's session. Okay, so now the agenda, or the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create two roles here. Okay, the first role is going to be for a mid-level IT technician, and the second role is going to be the role for a super admin. and then we will be delegating those roles to a mid-level technician and a super admin respectively, and we'll see how the screen looks, and we'll see what are the restrictions that we can impose on a mid-level technician when compared to a super admin. So let's get started here. So I'm just going to help desk roles. I go to AD delegation and then I go to help desk roles. The first task what I do is I'm going to create a role for a mid-level IT technician. Okay, and I just click on create new role. I'm going to give this role a name. So let's say IT tech. So this is going to be the name of the role, and the actions that I want the mid-level IT technician to perform is going to be create, modify, and disable accounts in Active Directory. So this is just a brief description, and based on the description I am going to assign the roles, or I'm going to assign actions or delegate actions. So the checkboxes that you see here are going to be the actions that you will be delegating to this role. So we are not directly mapping an action to a user. What you do is, as a first step, you create a role. In our case, this is going to be IT tech, and then you then assign or map the role to a technician or to a user. Okay, so let's get started here. So we have three links here, one for Active Directory Management, Active Directory Report, and Administration. And I am going to decide the actions that the technician should perform through ADManager Plus in AD. So I want the technician to create users, create single user, and also create bulk users. Okay, that's the first action that I want the mid-level technician to perform. And the next thing is I want the technician to reset password. I want him to unlock user accounts if there are any logged out users. And then I also want the technician to move users. Okay, so in unlock, let me quickly check, or in reset password, let me quickly check what are the options that I can drill down and then delegate. Oh, okay, I see a lot of checkboxes here. So I don't want the user to leave, I don't want the technician to leave the password as blank while creating user. No, I'm not going to delegate this option. And I'm not going to delegate this as well, same as user logon name, the password being same as user logon name. No, not that. So I'm going to allow him to type a password. So this is for random password generation. I'm restricting that. So the checkboxes that I don't check are going to be the restrictions, and the checkboxes, the ones that I check, are going to be the actions that I will be delegating to this role. Okay, so type a password. That's it. Okay, so now I've almost created a role for user creation and for modification as well. And apart from this, you have a lot more that you can delegate to a user accounts. For example, you have computer management, you have contact, group, mailbox, security, and file server management. You can delegate any action that you want. You can create as many roles that you want and then delegate it to the users in your Active Directory environment, be it IT technician, be it a normal user. You can grant these roles to anyone. The best part is you will not be altering their permissions in Active Directory. Okay, so one important thing that I'd like to say while we are in the process of creating a role. So if you'd like to restrict the action of this specific user to certain attributes, for example, if you don't want this user to manipulate the exchange attributes of user accounts, so you just click on user attribute privileges right here and you get a small pop-up window. Okay, so these are the attributes that the role has access to. For example, the role has access to general attributes that contains the OU, copying a user attribute, filling in the employee ID and all those stuff. The role has access to TS attributes. For instance, I'd like to restrict the TS attributes for this specific role. And I don't want this role to fill in the LCS, OCS, or link attributes as well. I'm going to restrict Office 365 and Exchange because I'm going to give it to a super admin to deal with all that. So I believe that it's going to be a bit complicated for the mid-level technician. So I'm going to remove all the complex stuff, and then I'm going to keep the role as simple as possible. So this is how I restrict even an attribute to a mid-level technician or to any technician to whom this role is mapped. Okay, so now we have successfully created a role. Okay, the next thing what we are going to do is we are going to map this role. So I save this role. The role is getting saved. And now that the role is saved, we have the role right here, IT Tech. And now we are all set to map it to a technician. And we'll see how it goes. So the next step is I'll have to go to help desk technicians here, and then I'll have to browse for the technician or the user account to whom I'll be mapping the role. So I click on Add New Technicians. I click on Select AD User. Okay, so now this pop-up window will give me the list of all users in my domain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to choose any specific user account. So I have an account named IT Admin IT USA. So I'm going to simply choose this. And the role that I'm going to delegate to this specific technician or this specific account is going to be IT Tech, the one that we created. So select, I hit OK, and then I click on Save Changes. I have now successfully added a technician here who is going to be a mid-level IT technician, and I have now assigned the role which is IT Tech. Now this IT Tech has privileges for user creation, user modification, and also disabling users. So let me quickly sign out and then sign in as the IT technician, and then let's see what's the difference that I see. So I would request you to just have a look at the screen right now. You have these many tabs. When I sign in with the technician's account, you will be seeing a lot of difference. So I sign out. Okay, so admin IT USA was the name of the account. I type the password. Okay, now this is going to be a domain authentication, which means this username and password will be verified against or will get authenticated against my domain controller for this specific domain. In your case, if it's going to be your domain, yes, the domain controller will be used for authentication. So it's going to be an AD authentication in this case and not a local authentication. Okay, now I quickly log in. Let me see. All right, so we just have one tab here. We don't have the home tab, we don't have the reporting tab, we don't have delegation or anything else, just the actions that we delegated. So this is how you restrict the actions of a specific user, be it a mid-level technician or a help desk, by assigning certain roles to them. Okay, so if they try to look for something else, they wouldn't be able to get ahead of it. So for example, if they try to generate a report, no, the reporting function is denied. If they try to delegate something, no, the delegation function is denied. So let me quickly log in as the admin account, and let me show you how to elevate an existing role, how to elevate the permissions of an existing role. It's going to be very simple. All you need to do is just select a few checkboxes that you want, and you will be elevating the role in no time. Okay, so one question for you is, whenever you are going to delegate something or delegate an action to a user or to an Active Directory user, you might not want to elevate the user's permission in Active Directory just because they need to perform simple stuff like reset password or even unlock users. So if you feel that you need not or you do not want to elevate the permissions in Active Directory, you can very well create a role which has all the actions that you want the technician to perform and simply map it to the user account. Now immediately some of you would have a question for me. Now if this account, Admin IT USA, does not have sufficient rights in Active Directory to perform the task that I have delegated, now how would this technician be performing actions in Active Directory? Because I told you, whenever this user account is going to log into ADManager Plus from their laptop computer, it is going to be an AD authentication. So whenever an account authenticates against a domain controller, their permissions will be verified. But in Active Directory, this account does not have sufficient rights. And how is this account going to perform a reset password when the account does not have any rights in Active Directory to perform a password reset function? The answer here, the answer in our case is going to be here, right here, impersonate as admin. Now this impersonation is going to be a proxy account. Now that will be used for AD authentication whenever this technician logs into ADManager Plus. Now don't get me wrong, whenever I say a proxy account, you need not think that as an alien account. Proxy account is the one that you configure here in the domain settings of ADManager Plus. So the first step in ADManager Plus, whenever you install the application in your server, the first step is you go to domain settings and then you provide a username and password in order to validate the domain. So this account here, the username that you provide here, will be used as an authentication token whenever you enable proxy for a user account. Now, this account should have sufficient rights in Active Directory to perform the actions that you want the technician account to perform. For example, if you want the technician account to perform reset password and the technician does not have any rights in Active Directory, you can simply edit the technician's account and then just go ahead and enable impersonate as admin. Now here, the admin is referring to the account that we have configured in the domain settings. In most of the cases, it is going to be a domain admin account. So you need not worry about that. Okay. So this is one feature that we have in delegation, and this is a very important feature. And why is it important? Because without elevating a user's permission in Active Directory, you can assign any role to a technician so that they log into ADManager Plus, they perform the actions that you want them to perform, and the minute they hit sign out, their permissions in Active Directory will still remain unaltered. Okay, so this is our first task. Our second task is going to be, we are going to now create a role for a super admin. And let's say some of you might be administrators of big organizations. When I say big organization, the organization will be spread across the globe, and every country will be represented as a site. And that site will be represented as an OU in your Active Directory. For example, if you just open up the Active Directory structure, you would find different OUs. One OU might be for the UK, and the other OU might be for the US accounts, and the other OU might be for the Europe accounts, and or another one for the Middle East accounts or Middle East users. So if your organization is spread like that, or if you'd like to restrict the action of a specific technician to certain OUs, you can very well do that. And let me quickly show you how to do that. Before that, we will be creating a role for a super admin, and let's see how it works. Okay. So I go to help desk roles. I'm going to create another role. This is for the super admin. The first role that we created was for the IT technician, and this role is going to be for the super admin. I'm going to name it as super admin for um, the US site. Okay, now this is going to be the name of the role, and I'm going to grant pretty much all options here. I'm not going to grant him or her the privilege for administration. I'm going to restrict administration, but except for that, I'm going to grant them all the actions. Okay, so all management and reporting. So we have close to 200 reports. All the 200 reports can be generated by this role, and then all management actions can be performed. So I'm just going to save this role. So the name of the role is going to be super admin for the US site. And now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly map this role to a technician who belongs to the US site. Okay, so I go to help desk technicians. Okay, then I click on add new technician. Now once again, this is going to bring up the users in my Active Directory, the entire list of users, so that I can pick and choose the users to whom I'll be delegating the role. So I have it right here. So admin IT USA. Okay, so I have now created a role, admin IT USA. So I have already a technician in the same name. This is going to be the same technician. So now I'm not going to add it to the second time, because that's going to create a duplicate. So I'm simply going to edit the existing role. So admin IT USA, and I'm going to simply remove the IT tech role that we granted, and I'm going to grant the role which is super admin for the US site. Okay, you can assign multiple roles to a technician, that doesn't matter, but since we have given this technician the privilege of a super admin, so that is going to be the ultimate permission. So super admin for the US site, yes. Okay, and now I hit save changes. Now wait a minute, we are not done restricting the user's action. Why is that? Because the technician in USA should not have access or should not have visibility over the accounts that are a part of the UK OU or the India OU. How am I going to restrict the access of this specific technician to the other OUs? Very simple. All I need to do is just edit the technician here. Okay, and then we have something called select OUs. I just click on the add OUs link here. I get the tree view or the OU structure of my Active Directory domain. And once I have this list, all I need to do is just pick and choose the OU over which the user should have control over. Okay. In our case, I'm going to grant this technician the access only to the employees USA OU and not to UK or to India or any other OU in our case. Okay. So just one OU, and then I hit OK. Okay, and then if I have any top level admin groups which I feel this technician should be excluded, or this technician shouldn't be dealing with all such top level admin groups, I have an add or remove groups option right here. So I just click on add or remove, and then I just click on add, and then I search for the group that I'd like to exclude for this specific user account. I'm just looking for the enterprise admins, and then I'm just going to exclude that specific group for this technician, and I hit save changes right here. Okay, so once again, I'll just quickly give you a recap on what I've done. So we have created a role for specifically for the super admin of the US site, and we have mapped that role to the technician, but we have restricted this technician's access to certain OUs. We have not given the access for this technician to all the OUs. We have restricted the access. Let's see whether the delegation has taken effect. Okay, now I'm going to log in as the technician here. I mean the technician from USA. So I'm just going to sign out. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to log in. Now this is a web-based application, which means you will be able to access it from anywhere or from any computer that is connected to your network. Okay, I type the password and I hit login. Again, this is going to be a domain authentication, and this is not going to be a local authentication. Perfect. So I have the management actions, I have reports, I don't have delegation or automation or any other tabs because I have restricted the actions in the role. I have restricted the features in the role. So I've just granted the technician the role to manage users and then generate reports from Active Directory. But we also gave him some kind of OU restrictions. So let me quickly just go ahead and try to create a single user and then see whether the other OUs are getting listed. So the only OU that the technician should have access to according to our delegation is going to be the USA OU. And let's see whether it's the case. And also we did restrict certain we did restrict certain groups for this technician, which means the technician would not have direct access to the groups that we had restricted. So even though the tree view gets populated here, if the technician tries to create an account in any other OU apart from the employees USA OU, they will be getting an access denied error message. So they'd be able to see the OU structure because that is derived from the Active Directory, but they will not be able to create accounts in any other OU apart from the ones that are delegated to them. In our case, this is going to be the employees USA OU. So this is how you restrict the actions of a specific technician to any OU that you want. And this would be very helpful for you whenever you have technicians or whenever you have organization that is spread across the globe as different sites, and the sites are represented in Active Directory as OUs. So that's about you know adding users to ADManager Plus and then granting them different roles. So you can just go ahead and customize the roles based on any condition that you have or any permission that you'd like to delegate. Okay, another important thing that I'd like to discuss with you is regarding the impersonation or the proxy account. So I told you that if I am going to enable impersonation for a specific user account in Active Directory, that user account is going to use the privilege of the proxy account. In our case, it is going to be the account that we have configured in the domain settings. Okay, so the next question, the immediate question is, if that is the case, if this specific user account, admin IT USA, deletes a specific user account in Active Directory, will the security log tell me whether it is the admin IT USA who did the action, or is it going to be the account, the proxy account? The answer is it is going to be the proxy account that will be listed in the security logs. The reason being, the proxy account was used for authentication in Active Directory. Now that's quite alarming. So user A did something and I have enabled proxy for user A, and the proxy is going to be user X. And if I have a look at Active Directory, and if I just go to the security logs and have a look at Active Directory, that's going to give me user X deleted the user account, wherein it's not user X, it was user A. So how do you actually find out the exact action done by the technicians? You need not worry, we have everything handled perfectly. So we have something called audit reports right here. So this would give you clear information, clear-cut information, so much better information than the security logs when it comes to auditing actions of your technicians. So you have the audit reports right here. So if you would like to find out the action done by any technician for that matter, let's say you've configured 4 technicians and you'd like to find out the actions done by all the technicians, you simply choose the actions and just go back in any period of time and then hit generate. You get the list of all changes done by the specific user account in Active Directory, irrespective of whether or not a proxy is enabled for that account. So that's the best part here. So you need not be worried about the security logs. You have it very detailed and you have even attribute level changes being recorded by this application. So we have everything covered here. Okay, and we have something called admin audit reports. Now, what is admin audit reports? Now, the audit reports, we all know that this is going to give us information about the actions done by the specific technician through ADManager Plus. Okay, that's understood. Now, the admin audit reports is if I am an administrator of ADManager Plus and if I log into ADManager Plus and I add a technician, remove certain roles from the technician or add certain roles to the technician's account, and if I'd like to know who did that and at what time was the action done, you have the admin audit reports. So the audit reports will give you information about the changes happening in Active Directory through ADManager Plus, whereas any changes within the application will be recorded by the admin audit reports. And you can very well know who did what in the application, who elevated the permission of a specific user account, or who removed permissions, or who deleted or added a technician within ADManager Plus. So we have everything covered in a very detailed manner here. So that's delegation. A quick recap about delegation here. So delegation is all about creating customized roles with any level of restriction that you want and then granting them to technicians. So that's creating roles is going to be the first step. And next one is adding a technician. So while adding a technician, you will be able to impose restrictions like OU-based restrictions. As I said, if you'd like to restrict the access of a specific technician to certain OUs, you can very well do that. All you need to do is just click on the plus sign here. The tree view would pop up. You can just go ahead and select the OU so that only the delegated OUs will be visible for the technician. And if the technician tries to search for a user account, which belongs to another OU other than the delegated one, they wouldn't be getting any accounts. So the search result would be null. Okay, so that's about delegation. And enabling a proxy. A proxy would be very helpful whenever you'd like to, you would want certain technician to perform a reset password operation in Active Directory, but you're not willing to elevate his or her permission in Active Directory just for the sake of this one action. So you can just go ahead and enable a proxy here. Again, this proxy will be referring or will be using the account that you configure in the domain settings to contact your domain controllers. So that's the proxy account. And in order to audit all the changes, irrespective of whether the proxy is enabled or not for a technician, you can use the audit reports. So you need not manually log into the application to generate the audit reports. You can go ahead and create a schedule so that the scheduled report will be reaching your inbox on an hourly basis, daily, weekly, or even on a monthly basis, depending on your requirement. And the admin audit reports is for capturing all the actions that take place within the application. Someone deleting or someone adding roles or any sorts of modifications within the application will be recorded by the admin audit reports. Now that's AD delegation. Now let's talk something about workflow. Now workflow is basically a request and approve kind of methodology here. So say for example, in an organization, normally after the HR department recruits few employees, the first step is going to be AD account provisioning. It would be nice if you hand over or if you give the HR a web form that they can fill and then raise a request for user creation. So using the workflow within ADManager Plus, you will be able to achieve that. Achieve that in the sense you will be able to grant or delegate a customized layout for the HR department so that they log in to the application and then they just fill in a basic information like the first name of the user account, last name, and then the password, and then they hit create request. So that request will be forwarded to the next level of approval, or for the next level of approval. The HR will be raising a request that will be forwarded to the reviewer. The reviewer can be a mid-level technician, and then it will be forwarded to another approver. So the approver will go through the request and just to make sure that everything is right, and then it will be forwarded to the executor who takes the final call. And once the executor hits execute, the account will be created in Active Directory. Now, if you think that these many levels of approval are going to be a bit complicated, if you'd like to keep it simple, you can edit the workflow and then keep it simple. You have a requester and an approver, or you have requesters and two levels of approval. Now it's up to you. So based on the size of your organization, you can just go with one level of approval or all three levels of approvals. Okay, now workflow, what we're going to do now is we are going to create a customized template or a layout for the HR, and then we are going to delegate it to the HR so that they can log into the application and then raise request for user provisioning. So let's see how to do that. Okay, now the first step is building a template for the HR. So I've already created one. So in order to build a template, all you need to do is just go to AD management here, ADMGMT, that's AD management, Active Directory management. And then you click on user creation templates. Okay, so when you are in the user creation templates, you can just go ahead and create a template which is very simple, which is something similar to a web form that will be used only for account provisioning. So let me quickly go ahead and create a new template here. Okay, so I'm going to name the template as template for HR, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so template for HR, and I don't want the HR to see all this because this is going to be very complicated. This is not something that the HR will be dealing with. I mean, the Exchange tab, terminal services, link, Office 365, no. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove some of these attributes from the layout. I'm going to make the layout very simple as possible. So I just click on enable drag and drop here. Okay, so Okay, I don't want the Exchange tab, so I'm going to remove it from the layout. So I just click on Exchange, I hit delete. Okay, I delete the entire tab, and next terminals I delete the entire tab. Link, I don't want link as well, and I'm going to remove custom attributes and Office 365 as well. So I'm going to remove all the complex stuffs so that the HR just needs to fill in the basic information and then trigger a request for user creation. And if I go to the account tab, I'm going to keep it more simple. So, I have these logon restrictions, password restrictions. No, I'm not going to grant all these to the HR and make things complicated. So I'm going to delete that. And I have 4 options for setting a password. That seems to be a bit complex. Let me make it simple. So I don't want the HR to generate a random password. Leave the password same as the logon name. No. Leave the password as blank. No. I just want them to simply type a password and then send it across to me or initiate a request. Okay. Group membership. A mid-level technician can decide the group membership, so no. Logon script. No. So you can basically decide any attribute that you want to be present in the layout. If you feel that the attribute shouldn't be there in the layout, you simply go ahead and delete it. So now our layout is going to be very, very simple. So the layout only has the general tab, the account tab, and the contact tab. So the general just has the first name, last name, and few other very basic attributes. So let me quickly save the template here. Okay, so now we have saved a template. The template is going to be named as template for HR, and let me show you how to assign a template to the HR. Okay, so I go to workflow here. So we are going to add a member from the HR team as a requester, so for which we should first be looking for the requester here. So I just click on requesters, and I have something called add new requester, and I browse for the requester. Again, when I click on browse, this is going to give me the list of users from my Active Directory environment. I can just pick and choose any user that I want. If you'd like to grant this to the HR group, yes, you can very well do that. You can just click on groups and then search for the HR group and select the entire group as such. Now for now, I'm going to just look for the HR account. Okay, now I search. Now this search again is going to look into the users in my Active Directory environment. So I have the HR right here, HR account. I hit OK, and I'm going to grant a role. So we have roles for requesters here. So let me quickly show you what are the roles. You have roles for user creation, user modification, group, and computer modification, or all put together you have the super requester. So I'm just going to grant this specific account, which is the HR account, the role for user creation. Okay, so user creation. And do I want the HR to raise requests for user creation in all the OUs? It's just a request. So I'm just going to leave it as such, and I'm going to hit save. Successfully added the requester. Now, how do I assign the template that I've created to this specific account? Because I might have 50 templates, and if a request is raised, I need to know which template was used by the HR to raise a request. And that's going to be a hectic task. Instead, what I do is I edit the HR account and I simply assign a template and I set it as default for the HR so that they're not going to use anything else apart from the one that I have delegated to them, template for HR, which has very basic user information, something like a web form, and I set it as default so that they do not have an option to actually choose the template. Okay, so template for HR, I set it as default, and I click on save changes right here. So let me quickly log in as the HR and then raise a request. Okay, I sign out, and now I'm going to sign in as a HR. I type password. Again, this is going to be a domain authentication, not a local authentication. So I just log in. Okay, so oops, it looks the password is incorrect. Okay, There you go. So the HR will not have AD management, the HR will not have AD reports, AD delegation, or any other tabs within this application, because the HR is only supposed to raise a request for user creation, and that's exactly what you see here. So I have logged in with the HR account, and I just click on single user creation. Once again, I'd like to remind you something. We are not going to create a user, we are just going to create a request for user provisioning. Okay, so you see that the template that we set is there by default. So this is how I restrict the HR department or any requester from choosing different templates. If I have, let's say, 50 templates and I don't want them to be choosing templates, so I delegate or I set a template as default, so that as soon as they open the form for creating a request, everything is pre-populated here. So as you can see here, you only have general, account, and contact. You don't have the Exchange tab, you don't have link, you don't have Office 365 or any other tabs here, because this is just for creating a simple request. Okay, I'm going to create an account. So let me name the account as John, and the last name is going to be Smith. Okay, so John Smith, everything looks okay. So I just go to the account tab and I type a password. I confirm it, and then I hit. And if I'd like to, fill in few basic attributes like the telephone number of the user, or the mobile number, or the title or department, or whatever it is, I can just go ahead and fill in all the basic stuff here, and then hit create request. Oops, I need to give it a subject. So this is where you set the priority. So I'll be talking about assigning and notification roles soon after this, and that's where the normal priority, a normal, high, medium, and low comes into picture. So for now, new user for IT department. Okay, so this is going to be the subject, and I'm going to create a request. So I just click on create request right here. So now the request will be created and it will be forwarded to forwarded for approval here. Okay, create request. The request is being created. Perfect. Successfully sent the request for user creation. That's great. Now I will have to log in as the administrator, because so we have now initiated the request or triggered the request as a HR, and the next step is approval. So let's see how it goes. So I sign out, I log in with the administrator account, which has privileges for approving requests. So I'm going to see whether is there any request raised for user creation. So I just click on workflow. So I will be getting an email. So you have notification rules and assigning rules right here. So as soon as a request is raised, and if you'd like to be notified, you can very well go ahead and define all those from right here. So I'll get back to this later, but for now, let me quickly check whether I have any requests. So in order to check my request, I click on all requests right here. Okay, there you go. So new user for IT department. So let me quickly, oh, this request was created by the HR account. That's good. Okay, and I just click on the request in order to view it. Okay, just to confirm, request history. So requested by HR account, and you have the date and time right here. So I'm just going to view this user account for which the request was raised. Okay, so I just see three tabs here: general, account, and contact, and I just verify all the details. I find something missing, so I'd like to add few information to this. I'd like to make sure that the attributes are complete, in the sense I'd like to assign a mailbox for this user account, enable link, or add group membership, home folders, permissions, and all that stuff. And how do I do it? So I have already created a template, so which is going to be let's say mailbox enabled template. Okay, so with all the settings that I want. So I'm just going to apply this template. So while reviewing a request, you will be able to modify the request and apply any template that you want. As you can see here, from 3 attributes or from 3 tabs, we now have 7 tabs, which means we have populated all possible attributes for this user account just by applying a template. Okay, and we have everything in place. So we'll have to make sure that the exchange settings are perfect. So I'm just going to verify that. Okay, I just choose a mail server and a mail store. That's right. And now that everything is in place, I just hit OK. And the next step is I have verified the settings now, everything is in place. I'll have to just go and approve it. So right now I'm going to do that. So I have something called execute. Now if I hit execute, the account will be created in Active Directory. So if you have some errors, the errors would be clear-cut and you'll be getting a message. So this is how I initiate a request and I approve a request through ADManager Plus. And you can go ahead and assign requesters, or I mean users, to the requester role just by clicking on the requesters link right here. And if you want someone to be added to the executors role, yes, you can do that too. So from right here, and you have something called requester roles. So you have these many roles that you can pick and choose from for various request criteria. You have a criteria for creating users, user modification, group, computer, and even contact modification. So you assign or you create a role, and then these are two different things here. This is requester role, and the one that we saw in delegation is going to be help desk role. So don't get confused. These are two different things. So the settings that you see here are going to be mapped to a user account, so that the user will be able to raise request for the ones that are enabled inside the role. Something like create users or disable users, delete, or whatever it is. Okay. And talking about assigning and notification rules. So you have something called assigning rules here. So whenever a request is created, if you would like to map it to a certain technician within the application. So for example, if the action is going to be create users, you want that to be dealt by a certain technician. So create users, you want the request to be assigned to let's say any technician that you've already added within ADManager Plus. So you want this to happen, and the priority, you can just set the priority level here to high, medium, low, or normal. So that's how the assigning rules basically works. You can just go ahead and add any number of criteria. So I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible, but you can go ahead and specify any conditions here based on which the tickets will be assigned. Not only that, so as soon as a ticket gets raised, if you'd like to be notified, so you have the notification rules right here. So notification rules for ticket creation, execution, and rejection. So you just click on notify, notify a requester, notify the executors, and the technician to notify. And if you have any additional emails, let's say you have your secondary emails, you can very well go ahead and type in the secondary emails here and hit save. So this is how the assigning rules and the notification rules work. And one more thing that I'd like to tell you is we have another application which is AD Self-Service Plus. Some of you might have already been using this. So we have an integration between AD Self-Service Plus and ADManager Plus. So for those of you who are new, let me just give you a quick overview. Now AD Self-Service Plus is going to be a web-based tool that will enable users to reset their own password, unlock their own accounts, or even self-update information in Active Directory, so without having to contact an administrator or a help desk technician. Now, if you are using this tool, AD Self-Service Plus, there is a feature within AD Self-Service Plus that allows user to opt in or out from a security group or distribution group. Now, if you want that process to be linked to an approval, you do not want the users to opt in or out directly. Instead, if the user wants permission to access a specific group, you want the user to raise a request from AD Self-Service, so that gets forwarded to AD Manager. You can very well do that using the workflow integration that we have with AD Self-Service. So as soon as a user logs into AD Self-Service and then the user wants to be a member of certain security groups, the user can raise a request for those groups, which in turn will be landing here in the all request section of ADManager Plus, and you as administrators can review the request. And if you find that the request is valid, you can just go ahead and approve it so that the user will be a part of security groups 1, 2, and 3, and also distribution groups 4, 5, and 6. So you can very well do that. Once again, self-service, AD Self-Service Plus is going to be a web-based tool that allows users to reset password and unlock their own accounts. So which in turn reduces the number of help desk calls and increases productivity. And we have a direct integration between AD Self-Service Plus and ADManager Plus. So I just thought I should be informing you now that we are in the workflow. We are discussing something about workflow. So that's it. A quick recap on today's session and the topics that we covered. First, it was all about AD delegation. So AD delegation is you create customized roles and then you grant it to technicians, and then you have something called workflow. Workflow is a request and approve kind of methodology. So you can just go ahead and play with the application, and if at all, if you have any questions for me, or anything related to ADManager Plus or even AD Self-Service Plus, so you'd be getting an email quite shortly. Feel free to reply to that email and we'd be more than happy to assist you and then clarify your doubts. So once again, thank you very much for taking part in today's workshop. The next workshop is going to be scheduled for next Wednesday, which is going to be based on automation. So we'd be discussing how we would be automating certain stuff in Active Directory, certain crucial tasks in Active Directory, and how would you clean up Active Directory on a regular basis using automation. And we'll be discussing something about mobile apps as well. So hope to see you in the next workshop, and thank you very much for taking part in today's session. You all have a nice evening. Thank you.